Hi, my name's Lucia Osborne-Crowley. I'm a writer and a journalist, and I've just written my first book, and I'm very excited and very grateful to be able to talk to you about it today. The book is called I Choose Elena, and it is a personal account of a very violent sexual assault, something that happened to me when I was a teenager, when I was very young, and something that I didn't feel able to talk about for 10 years. So when I was 15, I was a very serious gymnast. I used to train every day, sometimes multiple times a day. And my gymnastics career was kind of the most important thing in my life. And then one night I was out with friends and I was attacked by a stranger and sexually assaulted. And because I was so ashamed, I just didn't tell anyone what had happened. I really believed that it was my fault. I really believed that if I told anyone, I would be blamed. So I went home that night and I got in the shower and I told myself that I would never tell the story to anyone as long as I lived, because I didn't want anyone to know that I was the kind of girl that happened to. And so I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my friends. I took a few days off training to cover up my injuries from the assault and let my bruises heal. And then I went back to training and I pretended everything was normal. But pretty quickly, my body started to unravel. I started messing up tricks that I had learned when I was 7 years old, that I'd been able to do in my sleep. I started kind of not being able to do these things that had come so naturally to me before, and I just felt like I'd lost my balance and I didn't know why. And this culminated in me having a very bad injury at a big competition, and I injured myself so badly that I was never able to go back to the sport or to any kind of sport. And that was a huge heartbreak for me because it was such a significant part of my life. But even when I lost that, I wasn't able to connect it to the assault, because I was so dedicated to kind of telling myself that it hadn't happened and that it hadn't affected me. I really thought that the strongest thing to do was to pretend it hadn't affected me, but the truth is it had. And over those next few years I got very sick. I started having very bad abdominal pain and I was in and out of hospital and no one could figure out what was wrong with me, but I was getting sicker and sicker. And eventually I was diagnosed with endometriosis and Crohn's disease. And in the course of my treatment for those conditions, a few doctors had told me that they are sometimes connected to physical trauma and particularly sexual trauma. And so this was kind of, this idea was taking hold in my head. And eventually I got so sick that I was in hospital and my whole life was kind of falling apart, and I realized that I'd run out of options. I'd tried everything I could to get better and nothing was working. So I thought I'd do the thing that I told myself I would never do and tell someone that this had happened to me. So I told my doctors, and all of a sudden this whole world opened up to me. There was so much care available to me, and a team of doctors and specialists and therapists helped me recover and helped me kind of get over the shame that I had felt for so long, and helped me realize that shame wasn't mine to carry at all, because there was only one person who did something wrong that night and it wasn't me. And that really changed my life and kind of started my recovery. And I wrote this book because I really want what I have learned to be available to as many people as possible. And I also wrote it because I really want to do whatever I can to contribute to a world where we talk about this more. Because every time I dig deeper into this, and the more doctors I speak to and the more books I read, I realize that if I hadn't felt so afraid to speak up, if I had told someone sooner, my life would have been very different. And I might not be as sick as I am now. I might not be in as much pain as I am now. And to me that feels so devastating, because all that needed to happen was I needed to feel able to say something terrible has happened to me. So I really want this book to contribute to that conversation. I hope that it helps victims and survivors speak up as soon as they can. And I also really hope that people who haven't been touched by sexual violence might read this and maybe think about how they could start that conversation with the people in their life who might have been affected by it. Because, you know, you could be the person who changes someone's life by asking the right question. So I feel so lucky, so lucky to get to share this book with a Dutch audience. I'm so grateful to my publishers, and I'm excited to share it with you, and I hope that you'll join me in kind of helping to create a world where these things are a little bit easier to talk about.